Miguel and Gabriel, 7-year-old twins of billionaire Rubens Mendonça, were born completely blind. For 7 years, they lived in total darkness. The world's best ophthalmologist declared, "Impossible, they will never see." Before we continue, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and write in the comments which city you're watching from. Rubens had already spent 15 million reais on treatments. Nothing worked. The children were depressed, hopeless, until Isabela Santos, a humble cleaner from the outskirts, arrived at the mansion to work. In just 2 hours, she did something that sent everyone into a panic. The boys began shouting, "Daddy, I see light! I see light!" Rubens fainted on the spot, unable to believe it. His children were reacting to colors for the first time. But folks, what this cleaner discovered about the twins' true condition will leave you outraged. The doctors had been lying all along. The technique she used was so basic that anyone could have tried it. What happened next? I guarantee you'll cry. Get your tissues ready. The silence that hung over the Mendonça mansion was deafening. Rubens gazed out the window of his luxurious office at the impeccably maintained garden, but his eyes didn't see the beauty of the blooming roses. For 7 years, since Miguel and Gabriel were born, his life had become a desperate search for a miracle that seemed increasingly out of reach. The death of Marina during the twins' birth had left a void that no amount of money could fill. But worse than losing his wife was watching his children trapped in a world of total darkness. The babies who were supposed to bring joy to the home only confirmed a devastating diagnosis: complete congenital blindness. Rubens sifted through the papers on his mahogany desk, medical reports piling up like reminders of his powerlessness. 15 million reais spent on specialized clinics, experimental treatments, surgeries in Europe, consultations with the world's top ophthalmologists, all led to the same cruel conclusion: impossible. The muffled sound of crying came from upstairs. Miguel and Gabriel spent their days locked in their room, isolated from the world, showing no interest in play or any activity. The specialized nannies Rubens hired never lasted long. They arrived full of hope and innovative methods, but soon succumbed to the brutal reality of the situation. Rubens closed his eyes and massaged his temples. At 38, he looked like he had aged 2 decades. His tech company continued to thrive, but financial success had lost all meaning. What good was being a billionaire if he couldn't give his children the most basic thing a child deserved: the ability to see the world? The intercom buzzed, interrupting his dark thoughts. His secretary's voice echoed through the office. "Mr. Rubens, a candidate for the cleaning position has arrived. Mrs. Isabela Santos is here for the interview." He sighed heavily, another employee to keep the house clean. At least this one wouldn't promise to cure his children, as some nannies had. Rubens rose from his leather armchair and adjusted his navy blue suit. He needed to keep the household running, even if his personal life was complete chaos. As he descended the white marble staircase, he could hear the persistent crying of the twins more clearly. The sound pierced him like daggers. How could a father get used to his children's suffering? How could he accept that 2 young children were condemned to a life of limitations and dependence? In the entrance hall, a young woman stood holding a simple folder with documents. Her black hair was tied back in a neat ponytail, and she wore modest but well-kept clothes. There was something in her posture that conveyed determination, a quality Rubens rarely saw in candidates who came to his home. But what she didn't know was that her arrival at the mansion was about to change the fate of that entire family forever. Isabela Santos nervously adjusted the strap of her bag as she waited in the mansion's entrance. At 26, she had worked in dozens of homes, but never in a property so imposing. The marble columns and crystal chandeliers contrasted sharply with the simple house where she grew up on the outskirts of São Paulo. When Rubens Mendonça descended the staircase, Isabela felt the weight of the sadness emanating from that man. Despite wearing an expensive suit and maintaining a businesslike demeanor, it was impossible not to notice the deep dark circles under his eyes and the defeated expression on his face. She had researched him before the interview, a highly successful entrepreneur who rarely appeared in public since his children were born. "Mrs. Santos?" Rubens extended his hand formally. "I'm Rubens Mendonça. Thank you for coming." "The pleasure is mine, Mr. Mendonça," Isabela replied firmly but respectfully. "I'm very interested in the position." They moved to a smaller, more private office. Rubens quickly flipped through the simple resume she had prepared. I see you have experience with residential cleaning. The house is large and requires attention to detail. 3 floors, 12 bedrooms, a library, offices. Then the sound reached them, a prolonged, melancholic cry that seemed to come from the depths of the house. Isabela felt her heart tighten immediately. As a mother who had lost a child as a baby, she recognized that kind of crying. It wasn't a tantrum or hunger. It was pure sadness. Rubens paused the conversation and closed his eyes for a moment, as if the sound were physical torture. My children, he murmured, more to himself than to her. Twins, 7 years old, they have some special needs. The crying continued, and Isabela had to restrain herself from asking if she could help. Something about that sound stirred all her maternal instincts. Is it just the 3 of you in the house, sir? Yes, their mother passed away during childbirth, Rubens said, his voice carrying years of unprocessed pain. There's also a specialized nanny who takes care of them during the day. But, well, you won't need to worry about that. Your role will strictly be cleaning the house, Isabela nodded, but she couldn't get that crying out of her head. There was an urgency in it, as if the children were asking for something no one could provide. May I ask, are they healthy? Rubens hesitated before answering. They were born blind, total blindness. The best doctors in the world have examined them. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. There's nothing that can be done. Isabela's heart raced. Childhood blindness was something she knew intimately. Her younger brother had been born with partial visual impairment, and she had spent her teenage years learning special techniques to help him. When he died in an accident at 15, Isabela vowed to use that knowledge to help other children if the opportunity arose. I understand, she said softly. It must be very hard for you. The job pays well, Rubens said, abruptly changing the subject. 3,000 reais a week, with weekends off. I just need you to keep the house spotless and not interfere with the children's routine. The nanny handles them. Isabela desperately needed the job. Bills were piling up at home, and her mother depended on her care. But something stronger than financial need motivated her at that moment. I accept the position, Mr. Mendonça. Great, you can start tomorrow morning. Oh, and Isabela? Rubens paused at the door. It's important you understand. My children have suffered enough. I don't want anyone giving them false hope. As she left the mansion, Isabela could still hear the echo of that crying. But what she didn't imagine was that her arrival in that house was about to uncover a secret that would change everything the family believed about the twins' condition. Isabela's first day of work began at 6 a.m. She arrived at the mansion carrying her cleaning supplies in a simple bag, determined to do a good job. The housekeeper, Donna Celia, a 60-year-old woman who had worked for Rubens for over a decade, greeted her at the back entrance. Girl, you seem too young to handle this house, Donna Celia commented as she guided her through the corridors. There are a lot of rooms, and the boss is very particular about cleanliness. Isabela nodded, absorbing every detail of the house's layout. I'm used to hard work, Donna Celia. Don't worry. While organizing cleaning supplies in the storage closet, Isabela heard footsteps in the hallway. Rubens descended the stairs, already dressed for work, phone glued to his ear, discussing business numbers and strategies. He gave her a brief wave and headed to his office. Then she heard it again, the same melancholic crying from the day before. This time, it was closer. Isabela followed the sound discreetly until she reached a living room on the second floor. Through the slightly open door, she saw 2 small boys sitting in armchairs too big for them. Miguel and Gabriel were identical, with light brown hair and angelic faces carrying deep sadness. They rocked back and forth, a repetitive movement Isabela recognized immediately. Her brother used to do the same when he was anxious or frustrated. A uniformed nanny, about 50 years old, sat on the other side of the room, scrolling on her phone. Stop crying, she said without looking up. You know that won't help anything. Isabela felt a surge of indignation. Those children needed stimulation, affection, attention, not indifference. She returned to her tasks, but couldn't focus on cleaning. Every whimper from upstairs tightened her chest further. Around 10 a.m., Rubens left for a business meeting. The nanny took the opportunity to go to the kitchen for a snack, leaving the twins alone in the living room. Isabela knew she was disobeying direct orders, but she couldn't resist. She climbed the stairs quietly, carrying a spray bottle of glass cleaner. When she entered the room, the boys stopped crying immediately, sensing a new presence. "Hello, little ones," Isabela said in a soft, melodious voice. "I'm Isabela. I came to make your house all shiny and nice smelling." Miguel turned his head toward her voice. "Who are you? Where's Aunt Marcia?" "Aunt Marcia went to have a snack. I'm here cleaning for you," Isabela said, approaching slowly. "Want to help me? I have something really cool here." Gabriel shifted in his armchair, showing curiosity for the first time. "What is it?" Isabela sprayed the bottle several times, creating a rhythmic, refreshing sound. The twins smiled instantly, the first genuine smile they'd shown in months. The sound was different, new, interesting. Psh, psh. She made the noise again, this time in a musical pattern. "This is my magic wand that makes windows crystal clear." To her surprise, Gabriel tried to mimic the sound. Psh, psh. Miguel laughed, a real spontaneous laugh that echoed through the room like music. "I want to try too." Isabela spent the next 15 minutes creating simple sound games. She tapped the spray bottle against the table in different rhythms, made noises with the sponge on the glass, and improvised melodies. The twins participated actively, laughing and trying to replicate the patterns. Then she noticed something extraordinary. When she made noises on the right side of the room, Miguel turned his head in that direction with precision. When she switched to the left, Gabriel followed the movement perfectly. They weren't just hearing the sounds, they were locating them spatially with impressive accuracy. The nanny returned and was shocked to find the scene. The two boys were standing, walking around the room, laughing, and following the sounds Isabela created. "What's going on here?" Marcia asked, mouth agape. "We're helping Aunt Isabela clean," Miguel answered, beaming with happiness. Isabela quickly returned to her official duties, but her heart was racing. There was something very strange about the twins' condition. They showed mobility and sensory responses that didn't align with a diagnosis of total blindness. As she finished cleaning the floor, a certainty grew within her. She needed to investigate the twins' case further. And before anything else, I want to thank all of you who are following this incredible story. Your comments and support mean so much to me, and that's what motivates me to keep bringing you stories that touch the heart. Thank you so much. When Rubens returned home that afternoon and heard for the first time in years the sound of laughter coming from his children's room, he stopped on the stairs, completely confused. But what Isabela had discovered about the twins was only beginning to come to light. The next morning, Isabela arrived earlier than usual. She had spent the entire night researching childhood blindness online, comparing symptoms and behaviors. Something didn't add up with the twins' condition, and she was determined to find out what it was. Rubens had already left for work when she arrived. The nanny, Marcia, hadn't yet shown up, giving Isabela a perfect opportunity to observe the boys in their natural state. She climbed the stairs quietly and found Miguel and Gabriel still sleeping in their beds. The room was adapted for visually impaired children. Furniture edges were padded. There were no loose objects that could cause accidents, and the floor was always spotless. But Isabela noticed something peculiar. The curtains were always closed, keeping the room in total dimness. When the boys woke up, she greeted them warmly. "Good morning, my little ones. Did you sleep well?" "Tia Isabela," Gabriel shouted with joy. "You came back?" "Of course I came back. I promised we'd play more, didn't I?" She approached the window. "How about I open these curtains to let in some fresh air?" "No," Miguel shouted, frightened. "You can't open them. The doctor said we can't." Isabela stopped immediately. "Why not, sweetheart?" "Because it hurts our eyes," Gabriel explained, repeating something he'd clearly heard many times. "Light is bad for people who can't see." This information left Isabela deeply intrigued. From her experience with her brother and other visually impaired children, natural light had never been an issue. On the contrary, many children with residual vision benefited from controlled exposure to light. "What if I open them just a little bit?" she suggested gently. "Very slowly, so it doesn't bother you." The boys tensed but didn't protest. Isabela opened a small crack in the curtain, letting a thin beam of sunlight enter the room. To her surprise, both Miguel and Gabriel immediately turned their heads toward the light. "You noticed I opened the curtain?" she asked, feigning casualness. "It's different," Miguel said, confused. Brighter, I think. There's something changed here, Gabriel added, frowning. Isabella's heart raced. Children who were completely blind shouldn't be able to perceive changes in light so precisely. She decided to conduct a more specific test. I'm going to play a new game with you. I'll make shadows on the wall with my hand, and you tell me if you feel any difference. She positioned herself between the window and the boys, creating a shadow that blocked part of the light falling on them. Immediately, both reacted. It's darker now, Gabriel exclaimed. It's like someone passed in front of something, Miguel added. Isabela could barely contain her excitement. These boys were not completely blind. They had, at the very least, light and shadow perception, something that could be developed with the right stimuli. She spent the entire morning conducting discrete tests. She discovered that the twins could distinguish between bright and dark environments, detect the movement of large objects close to them, and even showed a preference for certain directions when there were light sources. When Marcia arrived and found Isabela playing with the children again, she wasn't pleased. Miss Isabela, Mr. Rubens made it very clear that your job is cleaning. These children have a specific routine that cannot be changed. Of course, I apologize, Isabela replied diplomatically. They just seemed a bit bored, so I thought I'd do some simple games while tidying the room. But internally, she was seething with indignation. It was obvious that no one had properly tested the twins' visual capabilities. Worse, it seemed they were being deliberately kept in the dark, both literally and figuratively. During lunch, while Marcia was out picking up food, Isabela seized the opportunity to visit Rubens' office. She knew she was overstepping boundaries, but she needed to see the twins' medical records. On the desk, she found a thick folder labeled Miguel and Gabriel Medical History. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the documents. Dozens of reports from different specialists all confirmed the same diagnosis: complete bilateral congenital cortical blindness. But something caught her attention. The first report, dated when the twins were just 3 months old, mentioned possible residual light perception to be investigated. However, all subsequent reports completely ignored this observation. Isabela discreetly photographed a few pages with her phone and put everything back in place. Her mind was racing with possibilities. What if the twins weren't completely blind? What if there was visual potential being wasted? When Rubens arrived home that afternoon, Isabela made a decision that would change everything. She waited for him in the entrance hall, determined to confront him with her findings. But what she didn't imagine was that this conversation would reveal a much darker secret about the twins' true condition and the real intentions of the doctors who had treated them. Isabela waited for Rubens in the main hall, mentally rehearsing how to approach the delicate subject. When he walked through the door, talking on the phone about a business merger, she respectfully waited for him to finish the call. Isabela, is something wrong? Rubens asked, noticing her serious expression. Mr. Rubens, I need to talk to you about Miguel and Gabriel. It's very important. He sighed, clearly not expecting to deal with more issues related to his children. If it's about some inappropriate behavior, you can speak directly to Marcia. She's the one. It's not that, Isabela interrupted gently. It's about their vision. Rubens' face closed off immediately. Isabela, I made it clear from the first day that you shouldn't get involved with. Please, just listen to me for 2 minutes, she insisted. You know I lost a brother who had a visual impairment. I have experience in this area. Rubens hesitated but gestured for her to continue. Miguel and Gabriel are not completely blind. They have light and shadow perception. They can detect movement and respond to basic visual stimuli, Isabela said quickly, afraid of being interrupted. I did some simple tests today, and they responded perfectly. That's impossible, Rubens replied, but his voice carried more doubt than conviction. 15 specialists confirmed. What if the doctors were wrong, Isabela pressed? Or what if there was information that wasn't properly shared? She took a deep breath. Mr. Rubens, with the right stimuli, it's possible they could develop much more visual capacity than anyone imagines. Rubens fell silent for a long moment, processing her words. You're telling me I spent 15 million reais on the world's best professionals, and they got the diagnosis wrong? I'm saying they might not have explored all possibilities, Isabela replied carefully. Sometimes parents know their children better than any specialist. At that moment, as if the universe were orchestrating the situation, the twins came running down the stairs. Marcia followed, visibly annoyed. Sorry, Mr. Rubens. They escaped from their room and said they wanted to see Tia Isabella. Daddy! Miguel shouted, heading straight for Rubens with surprising precision. Tia Isabella taught us a new game. It's with lights and shadows. Gabriel joined his brother. She makes noises, and we can tell where she is. It's so cool. Rubens looked at Isabella, then at his children, and back at her. For the first time in years, he saw the boys genuinely excited and smiling. What kind of game? He asked, crouching to their level. She puts her hand in front of the window, and we feel when it gets darker, Miguel explained enthusiastically. And she taps things in different places, and we point to where the sound comes from, Gabriel added. Isabella watched Rubens' face transform. His disbelief gave way to curiosity, then to something she hadn't seen since she arrived. Hope. Show me, Rubens said to Isabella, his voice almost a whisper. For the next 20 minutes, Isabella conducted an informal demonstration of the twins' abilities. She played light and shadow games, sound localization tests, and simple movement exercises. With each activity, Miguel and Gabriel responded with enthusiasm and surprising accuracy. Marcia watched, mouth agape. In 5 years of caring for them, I've never seen the boys this alive, she said. Rubens was visibly emotional. When Gabriel successfully followed the movement of a flashlight, Isabella was waving, correctly identifying the direction of the light. Tears streamed down his father's face. This means they're able to. He couldn't finish the sentence. It means there's potential, Isabella said gently. A lot of potential, but they need specific stimuli, proper exercises, and above all, to believe they can improve. Gabriel approached his father and touched his face, feeling the tears. Why are you crying, Daddy? Rubens hugged his sons tightly. Because I'm happy, my boy. So happy. That night, after the children went to bed, Rubens called Isabella for a conversation in his office. You've changed everything in just 3 days. How is it possible that no one noticed this before? Sometimes people only see what they expect to see, Isabella replied. The doctors diagnosed total blindness and stopped investigating. The previous nannies treated the boys as if they were helpless. But children are surprising. They always find ways to overcome limitations when given the right stimuli. Rubens stood and walked to the window. Will you accept a position as, I don't know what to call it, therapist, specialized caregiver? I accept, Isabella replied without hesitation, but on one condition. We do this the right way. I want them reevaluated by other specialists who follow a structured visual development program and treat them as normal children with potential to grow. As they shook hands to seal the agreement, neither imagined that the real challenge was just beginning. But what was about to be uncovered about the twins' medical history would change everything they thought they knew about the situation. A week after the agreement between Rubens and Isabella, the mansion's routine had completely changed. The corridors, once filled with sadness, now echoed with laughter and play. Isabella had developed a structured sensory activity program that stimulated not only the twins' residual vision, but also their confidence and independence. That Thursday morning, she arrived carrying special materials she had bought with her own money, colored flashlights, textured objects, and even toys adapted for visually impaired children. Marcia had been let go, and Isabella was now officially the twins' primary caregiver. Good morning, my little scientists, she greeted as she entered their room. Today, we're doing experiments with colors. Miguel and Gabriel leapt out of bed, radiant. In just 1 week, their transformation was astonishing. They moved with more confidence, smiled constantly, and showed a voracious curiosity about everything around them. Isabella had installed lighter curtains in their room, allowing natural light to enter gradually. Today, she planned to take a bolder step, using colored filters to see if the boys could distinguish different hues. Tia Isabella, Gabriel asked as she organized the materials, why didn't we ever play these games before? The innocent question pierced Isabella's heart. Because sometimes adults forget that kids are capable of amazing things, my love. She began the exercise by placing colored filters in front of a powerful flashlight. I'm going to make different lights, and you tell me if you notice any changes. When she used the red filter, Gabriel frowned. It feels warmer. Interesting. Isabela switched to the blue filter. And now? Colder, Miguel replied instantly. Like it's different. Isabela could barely contain her excitement. The boys were distinguishing colors through the perception of temperature that different wavelengths were produced, a clear sign they had light sensitivity far beyond what any doctor had detected. At that moment, Rubens arrived home early from work, bringing a man Isabela didn't recognize. She heard raised voices downstairs and decided to investigate. This is completely unacceptable, the unfamiliar voice echoed through the hall. You can't just ignore years of specialized treatment because of a maid's delusions. Isabela descended the stairs quietly and saw Rubens arguing with a man in an expensive suit, gray hair, and gold-rimmed glasses. From the medical folder he carried, she deduced he was one of the specialists who had treated the twins. Dr. Hermes, Rubens said, clearly irritated, my children have shown more progress in 1 week than in 7 years of treatment. I need to understand how this is possible. Progress? The doctor laughed disdainfully. Mr. Rubens, what this person is doing is dangerous. Giving false hope to children with cortical blindness can cause irreversible psychological trauma. Then Dr. Hermes noticed Isabela on the stairs. His face twisted into a sneer. I assume you're the one responsible for all this chaos. I'm Isabela Santos, the twins' caregiver, she replied with dignity. Caregiver? The doctor scoffed. Mr. Rubens, this woman has no medical qualifications. She's playing with your children's health. Rubens stepped between them. Dr. Hermes, with all due respect, in 1 week she's achieved results you didn't in years. I want a second medical opinion. Second opinion? The doctor grew visibly nervous. Mr. Rubens, I coordinated a team of 15 international specialists. The diagnosis is definitive and unquestionable. At that moment, Miguel and Gabriel came running down the stairs, looking for Isabela. When they saw Dr. Hermes, they stopped immediately, their joyful expressions turning to fear. Bad doctor, Gabriel whispered, hiding behind Isabela. He pokes our eyes with bright lights, Miguel added, also seeking protection. Isabela felt a wave of anger surge through her. You remember Dr. Hermes? He said we'd never see, Gabriel murmured, and that we couldn't play with light because it hurts. Dr. Hermes looked visibly uncomfortable. Children have distorted memories. It's normal. There's nothing normal about this, Rubens exploded. You traumatized my children, convinced them they were incapable. Mr. Rubens, I ask you to be reasonable, the doctor said, trying to regain composure. Reasonable? Isabela stepped forward, her voice firm but controlled. Reasonable would have been properly investigating their visual capabilities. Reasonable would have been offering appropriate stimuli instead of keeping them in the dark. Reasonable would have been giving hope instead of despair. Dr. Hermes grabbed his folder hastily. Mr. Rubens, when this homemade experiment fails and your children are even more frustrated, don't say I didn't warn you. After the doctor left, Rubens knelt in front of the twins. Boys, you don't need to be afraid anymore. No one will hurt you or tell you that you can't improve. Miguel hugged his father. Tia Isabela said we're really smart and can learn lots of things. And she's right, Rubens said, looking at Isabela with deep gratitude. But while the family celebrated this moment of unity, none of them imagined that Dr. Hermes was, at that very moment, making calls to influential colleagues, determined to sabotage the twins' progress. What he didn't know was that Isabela had already begun investigating the children's medical history and was about to uncover a truth that would put his and other doctors' careers at risk. In the days following Dr. Hermes' visit, Isabela noticed a troubling change in the attitude of some staff at the clinic where the twins had been treated. Strange phone calls began arriving at the mansion, questioning the unconventional therapy being applied, and even a social worker showed up for a routine visit that seemed anything but routine. Determined to protect Miguel and Gabriel, Isabela decided to dig deeper into their medical history. She had photographed some documents from Rubens' office but needed more information. She reached out to her former special education teacher, Dr. Ana Beatriz, who worked at the Hospital das Clínicas. Isabela, dear, Dr. Ana Beatriz greeted her warmly in her office. What a surprise! How are you? After catching up, Isabela explained the twins' situation, showing videos she had recorded of their progress. The doctor watched intently, her eyebrows rising with each demonstration. "This is extraordinary," Dr. Anna murmured. "These boys clearly have significant residual vision. Who was the doctor responsible for the initial diagnosis?" "Dr. Hermes Cavalcante," Isabela replied. Dr. Anna's face darkened immediately. "Hermes Cavalcante. Isabela, I need to tell you something very serious about this man." For half an hour, Dr. Anna recounted cases she had followed involving Dr. Hermes. There was a disturbing pattern: children with partial visual impairments being diagnosed as completely blind, unnecessary treatments prescribed, and wealthy families induced to spend fortunes on procedures that did nothing. "3 years ago, we almost got his license revoked," Dr. Anna explained, "but he has powerful political connections and managed to hush it up." Isabela's blood boiled. "So Miguel and Gabriel were victims of a scheme?" "From what you've shown me, I have no doubt," Dr. Anna said. "They were never completely blind. They likely have a condition that, with the right stimuli from infancy, could have been significantly improved." Dr. Anna offered to examine the twins for free, using state-of-the-art equipment that didn't exist 7 years ago. "If we can prove the initial diagnosis was wrong, we can not only help these children, but also protect other families." When Isabela arrived home that afternoon, she found Rubens in his office, talking on the phone with someone who was clearly upsetting him. He gestured for her to sit and wait. "I understand your concern, Dr. Cavalcante, but the results speak for themselves," Rubens said, his voice tense. "My children are making extraordinary progress." Isabela could hear the doctor's raised voice on the other end, though she couldn't make out the words. "No, doctor, I won't stop the treatment," Rubens continued. "And yes, I'm aware of the risk you mentioned. Good afternoon." He slammed the phone down. "That man has been calling me 3 times a day, insisting I'm harming the boys," Rubens said. "He even threatened to sue you for practicing medicine illegally." "Mr. Rubens," Isabela said calmly, "I need to tell you what I found out today." For the next hour, she recounted everything she had learned about Dr. Hermes, showed the photos of the medical documents she had taken, explained the inconsistencies she had found, and shared Dr. Anna's offer to re-examine the twins. Rubens listened in silence, his expression growing darker with each revelation. When she finished, he stood and walked to the window, his hands clenched into fists. "You're telling me that for 7 years I believed lies? That my children could have had a completely different life if I had questioned the diagnosis?" "It's not your fault," Isabela said gently. "You trusted professionals who should have acted ethically. The blame is entirely theirs." At that moment, Miguel and Gabriel came running into the office. "Daddy, Tia, Isabela, we saw the shadow of a bird in the window." Gabriel was beaming. "It was tiny, but we saw it." Rubens knelt and hugged his sons, tears streaming down his face. "My brave boys, I'm so sorry it took me so long to realize what you're capable of." "Don't be sad, Daddy," Miguel said, wiping his father's tears. "Now we have Tia Isabela, and she teaches us really cool things." That night, after the children went to bed, Rubens and Isabela devised a plan. They would meticulously document the twins' progress, seek second medical opinions, and if necessary, take legal action against the doctors who had deceived the family. "Isabela," Rubens said as she was leaving, "I don't know how to thank you for what you've done for us. You didn't just bring hope to my children. You gave them back their future." "The future was always there, Mr. Rubens," she replied. "They just needed the right opportunity to show it." But what they didn't know was that Dr. Hermes was already mobilizing powerful resources to prevent the truth from coming to light, and the battle for the twins was only beginning. The consultation with Dr. Anna Beatrice was scheduled for a Tuesday, but on the Monday before, unexpected events nearly derailed all of Rubens and Isabela's plans. That morning, 2 men arrived at the mansion, presenting themselves as inspectors from the Regional Medical Council, claiming they had received a complaint about the illegal practice of medicine on the property. Isabela was in the garden with the twins, teaching them to identify different intensities of sunlight filtered through tree leaves, when Rubens called her inside urgently. "Isabela, I need you to come here immediately," he said, his voice filled with evident concern. In the office, 2 serious middle-aged men with clipboards and official badges awaited her. The taller one, who introduced himself as Dr. Marcelo Freitas, got straight to the point. Mrs. Santos, we received a formal complaint that you are performing medical treatments without proper qualifications. This is a crime, punishable by imprisonment. Isabela remained calm, though her heart raced. Sir, I am the children's caregiver. I don't perform any medical treatments, only educational and playful activities. The second inspector, Dr. Roberto Silva, consulted his clipboard. According to the complainant, you are promising to cure the blindness of 2 children through unproven methods. Who made this complaint? Rubens asked, though everyone in the room knew the answer. Complaints are confidential, de Freitas replied, but we need to assess the situation of the children and determine if they are being exposed to risks. At that moment, Miguel and Gabriel entered the office looking for Isabela. The presence of the inspectors visibly unsettled them. They still associated men in suits with traumatic medical experiences. Tia Isabela, Gabriel whispered, approaching her. Who are these men? Dr. Freitas crouched to the boy's level. Hello, children. We're doctors. We came to see how you're doing. Miguel immediately hid behind Isabela. We don't want any more doctors. They do things that hurt. Dr. Silva made notes on his clipboard. The children show trauma related to medical treatment. This is concerning. It's concerning because they were traumatized by incompetent doctors, Rubens retorted, his patience wearing thin. Dr. Freitas ignored the comment and addressed the twins directly. Boys, can you see anything? We can see lights and shadows, Gabriel replied confidently, and big shapes when they're really close. And when did you start seeing these things? Dr. Silva asked, clearly following a script. Always, Miguel answered, but before everyone said we couldn't. The child's innocent response caused an awkward silence in the room. Dr. Freitas and Dr. Silva exchanged significant glances. Can I see the children's previous medical records? Dr. Freitas asked. Rubens hesitated but handed over the medical folder. For 15 minutes, the inspectors reviewed the documents in silence, occasionally making notes or whispering to each other. Finally, Dr. Silva looked up. Mr. Rubens, these records indicate complete bilateral cortical blindness. If the children do have visual perception, there's a serious discrepancy here. That's exactly what we're trying to investigate, Isabela said. That's why we've scheduled a consultation with Dr. Ana Beatriz at the Hospital das Clínicas for a second opinion. De Freitas frowned. Dr. Ana Beatriz, I know her work well. She's a respected professional in pediatric ophthalmology, and if she confirms that the boys have visual capacity that was overlooked, Rubens asked, then what? The inspectors exchanged glances again. Dr. Silva closed his clipboard. Mr. Rubens, let's be frank. This complaint seems to have questionable motives. The children are visibly well cared for, happy, and showing progress. We see no evidence of neglect or illegal medical practice. Dr. Freitas added, we recommend proceeding with the second medical opinion. And Mr. Rubens, I suggest documenting everything thoroughly. If there was an error in the initial diagnosis, this is a serious matter that may need investigation. After the inspectors left, Rubens and Isabela breathed a sigh of relief, but the tension escalated when later that afternoon, they received a threatening call from a law firm representing Dr. Hermes, demanding they immediately cease any experimental treatment with the children. They're desperate, Isabela observed. That only confirms we're right. At the consultation with Dr. Ana Beatriz 2 days later, the results were even more revealing than expected. Using cutting-edge equipment, she discovered that Miguel and Gabriel had approximately 30% functional visual capacity, enough to develop significant skills with proper training. Mr. Rubens, Dr. Ana said gravely, these children were victims of gross medical negligence. With proper stimulation from infancy, they could have developed visual abilities very close to normal. The detailed technical report she produced not only confirmed Isabela's suspicions, but also provided irrefutable evidence that the initial diagnosis was completely wrong. When they returned home that afternoon, Rubens made a decision that would change everything. Isabela, we're going to sue all the doctors involved in the initial diagnosis, and we'll make this story public so other families don't go through what we did. But what they didn't know was that Dr. Hermes had far more powerful connections than they imagined, and the fight for justice would be far more dangerous than either anticipated. 3 months after the consultation with Dr. Ana Beatriz, life at the Mendonça mansion had transformed completely. Miguel and Gabriel attended regular visual stimulation sessions, participated in adapted physical activities, and, for the first time in their lives, played like normal children. Their progress was so impressive that Dr. Anna decided to document their case for publication in an international medical journal. Isabela had become more than a caregiver. She was now part of the family. Rubens had formalized her role as the twins' special development coordinator, with a salary that allowed her to care for her own mother and help other families in her community. That Friday morning, while Isabela worked with Miguel on visual motor coordination exercises, Gabriel came running from the living room, beaming with excitement. Tia Isabela, I saw the bird. I saw the bird for real. Isabela dropped everything and ran with him to the window. Gabriel pointed to a tree in the garden where a small bird was perched on a low branch. It's yellow and black, Gabriel shouted, bouncing with joy. I can see its colors. Miguel joined them at the window. I see it too. It's tiny, but I can see it. Isabela hugged both boys, tears of joy streaming down her face. After 6 months of intensive work, they had gone from children living in darkness to being able to distinguish specific colors and shapes. Rubens, who had come home for lunch, witnessed the scene from the doorway. What's going on here? Daddy, we saw a colorful bird. Miguel ran to hug his father. For real, with colors. Rubens picked up his sons, his emotion evident. In recent months, he had become a completely different father, present, involved, and infinitely proud of his children's progress. Isabela, he said, his voice choked with emotion, I need to tell you some news. The lawyer called this morning. The lawsuit against Dr. Hermes in the clinic was accepted by the court. And there's more. 3 other parents have joined the case. It seems we weren't the only ones deceived. The investigation Rubens had launched revealed a scheme far larger than anyone imagined. Dr. Hermes and 2 colleagues had falsely diagnosed dozens of children with more severe visual impairments than they actually had, charging fortunes for unnecessary treatments and keeping families in despair to ensure dependency. And best of all, Rubens continued, Dr. Anna got the article about the boys' case accepted in Pediatric Ophthalmology International. Your story will help doctors worldwide identify and treat similar cases properly. That afternoon, while the twins napped after a special celebratory lunch, Rubens called Isabela for a private conversation in the garden. They sat on a bench under a leafy tree, watching butterflies the boys could now see and name. Isabela, there's something I've needed to tell you for a long time, Rubens began, visibly nervous. You've completely changed our lives. You didn't just bring vision back to my children. You brought searching for the right words. Mr. Rubens, Isabela started, but he gently interrupted her. Please let me finish. In these months living with you, seeing your dedication, your wisdom, your strength, I've fallen in love, not just with the extraordinary woman you are, but with the family we've become together. Isabela's heart raced. She too had developed feelings for Rubens, but had always maintained a professional distance, respecting the complexity of the situation. I also feel something special for you, Rubens, she admitted, using his name for the first time. But I didn't want you to think I had ulterior motives. Ulterior motives? Rubens laughed softly. Isabela, you saved my family. Any motive you had would be welcome. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, holding hands, absorbing the magnitude of everything that had happened. Miguel! Gabriel! They heard shouts from the house. Where are you? The twins came running into the garden, looking for them. When they saw Rubens and Isabela holding hands, Miguel frowned curiously. Are you dating? He asked with the bluntness typical of children. Gabriel clapped his hands. That's so cool. Is Tia Isabela going to live with us forever? Rubens and Isabela looked at each other and laughed. Would you like that? Rubens asked. Yes, both boys shouted in unison, jumping with joy. That night, as they tucked the boys into bed, Gabriel made an observation that deeply touched everyone's hearts. Tia Isabela, thank you for teaching us to see. But you know what was the coolest part? What, my love? She asked. You taught Daddy to smile again too. When they left the children's room, Rubens turned to Isabela. So what do you say? Will you officially become part of this crazy family? I accept, she replied, sealing the answer with a tender kiss. But what none of them imagined was that one final surprise was still in store, making their victory even more complete and emotional. 6 months later, the Mendonça mansion was decorated for a very special celebration. Not only Rubens and Isabela's wedding, set for the following week, but also an even more extraordinary achievement. Miguel and Gabriel had developed enough functional vision to be enrolled in a regular school with only minor adaptations. However, that day's party had a different purpose. The lawsuit against Dr. Hermes and his accomplices had been concluded, resulting not only in substantial compensation for all affected families, but also in the creation of a foundation to help children with visual impairments receive proper treatment. Tia Isabela, look what I made. Miguel came running through the garden, holding a colorful drawing he had created. A family of 4 under a bright sun, clearly representing himself, Gabriel, Rubens, and Isabela. Gabriel followed close behind, carrying his own drawing. I drew our house. Look, you can see all the windows. Isabela knelt to admire the drawings, still amazed at the children's ability to capture visual details that 6 months ago would have been impossible for them. They're beautiful, my artists, Rubens approached, wearing a casual shirt and a smile that had become permanent on his face. Dr. Anna just arrived. She brought a surprise for the boys. In the garden, a small group of special guests had gathered. Dr. Anna Beatrice, Donna Celia, who had become the twins' adoptive grandmother, some neighbors who had followed the family's journey, and surprisingly, Dr. Freitas and Dr. Silva, the inspectors from the Regional Medical Council, who were now allies in the fight for ethical medical practices. Miguel, Gabriel, Dr. Anna called. Come here, I have something very special to show you. She opened a box and pulled out 2 gold medals. These are from the Brazilian Society of Pediatric Ophthalmology. You're being honored as ambassadors of overcoming for showing the world that we should never give up on our dreams. The boys beamed, carefully touching the medals and admiring how they shone in the sun. And there's more, Dr. Anna continued. The article about your case has been published in 15 countries. Doctors worldwide are learning from your story to help other children. Dr. Freitas stepped forward. Thanks to your work, we've created a new protocol at the Regional Medical Council. Now, every diagnosis of childhood blindness must be confirmed by at least 3 independent specialists, and families have the right to seek second opinions without any penalties. Rubens wrapped his arm around Isabela's waist. You turned a personal tragedy into hope for thousands of other families. As everyone celebrated in the garden, Gabriel tugged at Isabela's skirt. Tia Isabela, can I ask you something? Of course, my love. When you got here, did you know you'd be able to help us see? Isabela smiled, remembering that first day in the mansion when she heard the boys' desperate crying. You know what I knew, Gabriel? I knew you were special kids who deserved a chance. And sometimes when we give the right people a chance, miracles happen. Miguel joined the conversation. And now we're a real family, right? The most special family in the world, Rubens confirmed, hugging them all. Donna Celia approached with a giant chocolate cake. Did someone say it's time to celebrate? The children ran to the table, followed by the adults. As everyone sang an impromptu celebration song, Isabela watched the scene with tears of joy in her eyes. Who would have thought that a simple cleaner from the outskirts could transform not only the lives of 2 children, but also inspire changes in an entire medical system? Who could have imagined that true love could blossom amid a fight for justice? What are you thinking about? Rubens whispered in her ear. I'm thinking that sometimes people come into our lives exactly when we need them most, she replied. And that love has the power to heal far more than just the eyes. Gabriel, with chocolate smeared on his face, shouted from across the garden. Tia Isabela, come see how I can see all the stars on the cake. She laughed and ran to join the children, because now she knew a fundamental truth. No matter how dark the night seems, there's always a light waiting to be discovered. And sometimes that light comes through the hands of the least expected, transforming not just individual lives, but illuminating paths for others to find their own light. Years later, when Miguel and Gabriel became young lawyers specializing in disability rights, they always told the same story. It all started when a brave cleaner refused to accept that we were less capable than we really were. She didn't just teach us to see with our eyes, she taught us to see the infinite possibilities within each of us. Isabela remained exactly who she always was, a simple woman who believed in the transformative power of love, dedication, and refusing to accept limitations imposed by others. The difference was that now the whole world knew her name, and hundreds of families had been helped by her courage to challenge the impossible. The Mendonça mansion remained a home filled with laughter, discoveries, and love. More importantly, it became a symbol that miracles happen when special people come together at the right moment, ready to fight against any obstacle that tries to dim the light of hope. And you, what did you think of this incredible transformation? Have you ever experienced a situation where someone special completely changed your perspective on life? Share with us in the comments if this story touched your heart. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories that will move you. And don't forget to activate the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. I already have a new story waiting for you that will leave you even more emotional.